Hey everybody, this is Tracy here to talk about Birth of a Nation. I went to see it yesterday, and I must be honest, for the first time in a really long time, I walked away from a movie just really perplexed and torn about how I feel about it. I think the last time I felt this way probably goes back to Beloved, or maybe even sooner when Tyler Perry made the movie for colored girls, adapted it from the poem. I kind of left that one with mixed feelings as well. Um, Normally, I would never go see a movie like Birth of a Nation at the movie theater just because I'm really squeamish and I don't like a lot of gore and violence. And so, even when I was watching the show Underground on WGN earlier this year, although I really liked the show, I was like this most of it, and then I would have to watch it re-air, because now I knew when the gory parts were coming. So if you are squeamish, it may not be a movie for you because there is a lot of violence and just gore going on. I ended up going to see Birth of a Nation because I wanted to support Nate Parker, and I wanted to was really hoping that the movie would be a huge success. And because I know that it was orchestrated, the story coming out about him being accused of rape and having gone on trial like 17 years ago because people wanted to diminish this movie. And I think Cheryl Underwood said it best when she talked about when the movie he did, I think it was called Beyond the Lights. This story didn't come out, but now that this is like one of the biggest moments in his life, and then people want to bring up the past and talk about it. So I didn't want to be a pawn in that game. I just wanted to go to the movie, and I just really never wanted an apology from Nate Parker. I just wanted the movie to do well. But as I watched the movie, and it just the screen fade to black. I didn't know what to take away from the film, to be honest with you. But good movie. The cinematography was good. The acting was good. I think it was well written to a certain extent, and and I think that's the part that has me really troubled because I think otherwise it was a good movie. But the reason I walked away is because I know the story of Nat Turner. I knew that at the end of the rebellion, he is tried and he's hung. But I think where Nate Parker lost me, and I hate going back and start talking about historical facts because this wasn't a documentary, it was a film. And I don't really fault writers for taking liberties with screenplays, but then that's the downside of when you go to watch a movie that's based on historical facts, when you know so much about the story and you don't see those things happening in the movie, then it kind of like puts you in a gray area on whether or not you like the movie or you're not, and you can't set aside those parts. Went into the movie thinking they were going to show the Nat Turner rebellion, and it was going to lead from the rebellion to show maybe some other slaves uprising, and it leads to a new nation of people who believe that they are not meant to be slaves, and they go on to work towards freedom. But we didn't get that because the movie literally ended with Nat Turner being hung, and that just really bothered me because now I'm sitting there saying, well, why did you use the term Birth of a Nation? And so it took me back to the original Birth of a Nation, and I was wondering, okay, did he just use that title, for the awe factor to get people drawn in, which didn't make sense because a lot of people don't know about the original Birth of a Nation, which was like really one of the first epic movies to hit the screen. And back in I think it was 1915 that movie came out. And even if people had heard about it, how many people going to see this movie actually have seen Birth of a Nation? So that was kind of perplexing to me. Some people are actually trying to tie the rape scene in the movie to the actual rape that Nate Parker was accused of participating in. But in the movie, we don't actually see the wife of Nat Turner being raped. We see her being accosted by, I think it was 3 slave catchers, and we know harm is going to come to her, but it's up to our imagination to determine what actually took place in that scene. And so I was trying to remember the scene in the original Birth of a Nation, because there is a part where a black guy is accused of raping a white woman, and I was trying to remember how did that all happen, because maybe he was drawing from that scene in making the scene in this movie. And then it got me to thinking maybe I should go back and watch the original Birth of a Nation to see if there were some similarities that he drew from that movie when he was writing this particular movie. To the way that the movie ended, it almost made Nat Turner seem sort of like a religious fanatic, someone who was just so full of religion that he went over the deep end. And it kind of downplayed the actual rebellion itself, because now you're feeling like, okay, the movie ended with him being hung, there was nothing else. So these people, he drew these other people into the scheme to get revenge for his wife's rape, and now they're dead for no real reason, which I know in reality that wasn't the case, but that was sort of like the illusion that I took away from this film. And I struggled at the end with the way he portrayed Nat Turner as just surrendering to the army, which I don't believe happened in real life. I think in real life he was actually captured and he went on trial, and then of course he was found guilty and hung, eventually hung in like a public hanging, which is what they did back in the day. And so that kind of goes back to knowing the history of a story, and it kind of puts you in an awkward position, because the things that you know happen that you think should be a part of the movie aren't part of the movie. So I still don't want to take away from the work that was done because of my, personal opinion, and also myself being a writer, sitting there thinking, well, this is how it should have been done, or he should have did this, because it wasn't my movie, it was his movie, and it was his vision, and I'm just happy that he was able to bring that vision to life. On the lighter side, there were a few moments that my friend and I, we had a few chuckles, and I think it kind of upset the white guy that was sitting next to us. And even funnier was the fact that the movie was virtually empty. I think there may have been 8 to 10 people there. We were the only two African Americans in the theater, of like a 200-seat theater. And this one guy comes in, and out of all the seats, empty seats, he decided to sit next to next to us. And so we were giggling about a few scenes, and so I'll point those out to you. But it seemed to upset him, because he did eventually get up and move away from us towards the end of the movie. But some of the things that struck me funny was that they had scenes of these huge cotton fields, but when they would show them in the cotton field working, it was only Nat Turner and his mom in the scenes, and you would think that there would have been slaves sprawled out over these cotton fields, and that the focus wouldn't have just been on those two individuals, no overseers or anything. And then there was the scene where oh, they were walking. I can't remember where they were walking to, but it was like a group of the slaves, and they were walking. They may have been on their way to church or something, or I can't remember what it was, but they showed their feet. And one of the women, I think it was the woman who played Nat Turner's grandmother, and she had on these black leather flats that are modern today. Slaves wouldn't have worn those shoes. And then there was the scene where he was with his wife. I think it was after she had been beaten, and the makeup on her face depicting the beating that she had received from the slave catchers, her face was really swollen, like probably a replica of Emmett Till, at his funeral, and his face was really distorted. And but when they held hands, her fingernails were perfectly manicured, and there were no scratches, swollenness or anything in her hand. So that was interesting. And then there was another scene where she was laying in the bed, and I think this was after she had recovered from what had happened to her, and her eyebrows were perfectly sculpted, and you could see like the eyebrow pencil line and everything. And so we were laughing about that, and the guy, he was just like rolling his eyes at us. And I think at one point during the movie, he did lean over and he asked me, well, wasn't his wife pregnant again? And I was like, oh no, I didn't think she was pregnant again, and then I thought to myself, well, I shouldn't have been that friendly because now he's going to try to talk the rest of the movie, but that didn't happen because he got upset and left. So I didn't really want to give a review of the movie, give away a lot. I just want to share that I don't know if disappointment is the word, but I didn't leave the theater feeling the way I thought I wanted to feel about the movie. I have read hundreds of comments on Twitter where people are saying that they really loved the movie, they thought it was awesome. So I do want to encourage people to go see it. I know Empowerment Temple in Baltimore, Maryland rented out the theater and took their members, and afterwards they had a discussion, and I was watching the discussion on Periscope, and I was just, it did my heart good to hear people having dialogue about the movie. And so people are taking different things away from the movie, so don't take my confusion from it, because I may just be overly critical about the technical parts and may need to go back and watch the movie for the enjoyment of it and to see what else I can take from it. But please, if you were planning to go see it, do go see it. Take a friend to go see it, and maybe come back and give me your comments and let me know what you thought about it. So don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and if you have a comment that you want to make, if you go to the movie, come back and tell us what you thought about it, and let's keep the dialogue going. Take care.